over half of the S&P 500 companies have now reported earnings. What's your overall outlook on fourth quarter earnings season? I think you touched on it, but let's dig into it a bit.
Yeah, I think it's worth digging into because we are looking at that decline when we compare it to the final 3 months of 2021 of about 3%, strip away the energy sector, and it's a decline of about 8%. But what's even more interesting underneath that, Catherine, is that the rate at which companies are beating earnings estimates is virtually at the same level as the long-term average, somewhere in the region of 66 to 67%, depending on who you take your data from. But the level at which they're beating is very, very small. Typically, companies are beating forecasts by between 5 and 10%. This time around, they're beating them by between about 1 to 1.5%. So only very narrowly against already reduced forecasts. So profitability simply isn't there, at least at the moment. And that's why I think to some degree you're seeing so many layoff announcements, which are coming parallel to earnings or even prior to earnings, and why you're seeing investors so focused on that cost-cutting focus, because ultimately, if profit margins are going to be maintained in a declining environment, the only thing you can do is take away costs. Unfortunately, for a lot of companies, that means taking away headcount, but it can also mean pulling back on CapEx and investment opportunities at the same time. So when you throw all that together, I really do think that you have, whilst not a terrible earnings season, certainly not one that has topped expectations to a degree that would again validate the kind of rally that we're seeing, or at least prior to Friday, in the S&P 500.